So let me outline what I propose to do. First, if I'm elected, I will look at everything through this lens. The question is, does it help create more and better jobs for Californians? That is the most important lens in which we should view everything. Today, California's unemployment rate is 9.3%, among the highest in the nation, and we're well on our way to being the highest unemployment in the country. If we're going to find our way out of this economic mess we're in, California has to start producing jobs again. So my #1 goal as governor will be to help the private sector create 2 million jobs for Californians by 2015. This is the amount we need if we're going to replace the jobs our economy has stopped producing or is losing to neighboring states. It's the target we need to hit if we're going to restore prosperity. So how will we create those jobs? We'll do it by streamlining regulation, by restructuring and cutting taxes, by spending less, and by spending smarter. So let me be more specific on each of these. Let's take regulation. Inefficient, unnecessary regulation is an insidious job killer. The time and money spent by businesses applying for redundant permits, complying with conflicting regulations, is time and money not spent creating jobs. Interestingly, I recently met a healthcare leader who wanted to build a world-class high-tech hospital in Southern California. His vision was to create a specialty facility, kind of like the Mayo Clinic, that would rival those of any facility in the nation. But sadly, for the people of California, his vision was stymied by a bureaucracy fraught with roadblocks, delays, and red tape. The hospital was not built, jobs were not created, and health care was not improved. We can't afford this insanity any longer. We need to change the mindset of the entrenched bureaucracy. Instead of rewarding red tape, we should reward government officials who dramatically increase efficiency through simple solutions like aggressively streamlining approvals and reducing the number of permits required by competing agencies. We can still have the right regulations while dramatically cutting red tape and costs, and this will keep more jobs in California. Now, let me talk about taxes and spending. I have a news flash for the professional politicians in Sacramento. Hardworking Californians are taxed out. The trough is empty, and it was empty even before this week's proposed budget deal. I simply cannot accept the logic coming out of Sacramento today. Think about it. Right now, virtually every Californian is facing a revenue shortfall. Whether you're a business or a family, money's pretty tight. And because the economy is so bad, if you run a business, you can't raise prices, and as an employee, you're probably not getting a raise. So what is Sacramento about to do? Sacramento is about to raise prices to make up a revenue shortfall. Sacramento is going to its boss, you, the taxpayer, and taking a raise. In the real world, businesses and families don't have that luxury. In the real world, business leaders cut expenses until the company is healthy again. Families cut budgets. If you don't, you actually face financial disaster. Now, this is a point at which I am normally called a political novice. For even daring to say that maybe, just maybe, California's government should be run more like a business. That maybe at a time where businesses and families are drastically cutting budgets, Sacramento must do the same. California's bureaucracy cannot remain immune to the realities of the real world and real budgets. We should not be in this situation, but now that we are, we can't run from our obligation to honestly deal with the problem. Continuously raising taxes and fees to pay for more spending is unsustainable. It simply is unsustainable. For business, higher taxes mean less money for payroll and less money for R&D. For average Californians, it means less savings, more borrowing, and more hardship. Already, according to the Tax Foundation in Washington, California has the third worst business tax climate in all 50 states. In terms of personal income tax rates, California ranks third highest in the country. And again, that was all before this week. Is it any wonder that California is no longer competitive with the states around it? Of course not. Businesses and people are leaving California because they can't afford to stay here anymore. Our state is on a devastating downward spiral. So California today needs very determined leadership. Being governor, the CEO of the state, is not a test of popularity. It's the ultimate test of leadership and conviction. We need a governor who knows what she believes, a governor who's committed to holding the line on taxes while aggressively cutting the cost of government. A governor who's actually created jobs. A governor who's had experience with very large budgets and complex organizations. And a governor who will stick to priorities. And we need a governor who is willing to talk honestly to Californians about the challenges and the sacrifices that we must face together. In recent years, we've simply let too many opportunities to do the right thing slip away. And now we're paying the price. And here's a great example. 6 years ago, the state commissioned an unprecedented study called the California Performance Review. The study identified $32 billion of savings over 5 years. Savings accomplished through common sense, straightforward initiatives to modernize and streamline the state government. It included actions like saving $4 billion over 5 years through better resource management, productivity-enhancing technology, and natural workforce attrition. Saving between $700 million and $2 billion annually by consolidating government offices so we could negotiate better prices with vendors for products and services. And raising hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue by selling some of California's 22,000 idle buildings and non-strategic land. Now, I've read the California Performance Review cover to cover twice. And I can tell you that most of the recommendations are no-brainers. Do you know what happened with that study? Not much. It was quietly shelved because Sacramento lacked the political will to do the job. And that lack of will is costing us dearly today. Because if only half of the projected savings from the California Performance Review had been realized, California taxpayers might not be facing the proposed tax and fee increases that we are. Instead, we kept right on spending. In fact, California's government spending has grown by 80% in the last 10 years. The bureaucracy has grown by 28%. Does anyone think the state is 80% better off than it was 10 years ago? Of course it isn't. We can't govern this way anymore. California is out of time. And the next governor has to replace the state's bloated and chaotic government with a coordinated, streamlined operation that's part of the 21st century and uses technology like everyone else does in the 21st century. One of the big reasons the cost of government keeps going up is the state hasn't actually applied new technology to its operations. As a result, government is much less efficient than the private sector, and that's reflected in your tax bill.